Coast University, coming right back with the continuation of Nietzsche, Superman, and the replacement gods. I'll also deal with where the idea of the Superman would come from, where they would train him at, and what he would be capable of. But before you even get to Superman, you kind of have to build society up to accept him before he gets here. And one of the ideas that happened for the Superman to arrive was they believed that there must somehow be a realm where the logician is banished. And the logician simply believed in logic and applying logic to life and then deciding if you should be doing such behaviors that you want to disappear or you want to come about. And then it says perhaps art is even a necessary correlative and supplement to science. So now your art, the things you create, would teach people science or the new sciences that you wanted them to learn. How interesting that they thought you should use art to replace science. There is this system the Jesuits created, and it's called Jesuit theater. And Jesuit drama program of theater developed for educational and propagandist purposes in the colleges of the Society of Jesus during the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, cultivated as a medium for disseminating Roman Catholic doctrine. Drama flourished in the Jesuit schools for more than 200 years, evolving from modest student exercises to elaborate production that often rivaled the contemporary public stage in polish and technical skill. Student exercises were developed by Ignatius Loyola for the students to learn the doctrine of Catholicism, or what the Society of Jesus believed Catholicism should be. And the earliest recorded Jesuit plays took place in 1551 in Sicily. And then in less than 20 years, plays were being performed at more than a dozen of the new Jesuit colleges springing up in cities across the continent and Rome. And then, by the mid-17th century, there were nearly 300 Jesuit colleges in Europe, and in almost every one, at least one play was given each year. Originally, plays were to be pious in nature, expressing true religious and moral doctrines. They were to be acted in Latin decorously and with little elaboration, and no female characters or costumes were to appear. All these rules were relaxed or revised as Jesuit drama evolved. Favorite subjects came from biblical histories, the lives of saints and martyrs, and incidents in the life of Christ. But Jesuit playwrights also drew upon material from pagan mythology, ancient history, and contemporary events, all reinterpreted in terms of Catholic doctrine. Dramas were frequently performed in national languages or with vernacular prologues that explain the Latin text. Jesuit plays became increasingly elaborate, and their stagecraft kept pace with all the newest technical developments of European theater. Music was also an important part in most of the plays, ranging from simple songs to works that called for a large orchestra and chorus. The extravagance and luxury of many Jesuit productions came under heavy attack. Many of the productions were enormously expensive, and it was charged that students in some of the colleges did little more than prepare and perform plays. Opponents of the Jesuit order seized upon such charges and made them part of the wave of anti-Jesuit feeling that grew in the mid-18th century. Dramatic performances were prohibited or limited in many areas, and they ceased altogether in 1773 when the Society of Jesus was temporarily suppressed. Schopenhauer believed that universities weren't serving humanity any good. And the reason he says that is because he wanted evolution to be taught in the universities. And he had some writings. One was titled The Future of Our Educational Institutions, and in The Use and Abuse of History, he ridiculed the submergence of the German intellect and the menace of antiquarian scholarship. Already in these two essays, his distinctive ideas found expression, that morality, as well as theology, must be reconstructed in terms of the evolution theory, and that the function of life is to bring about not the betterment of the majority, who, taken as individuals, are the most worthless types, but the creation of genius, the development and elevation of superior personalities. So what you have to do is you have to reconstruct what most people already understood life was about, and that life was about God. And if you don't reconstruct that, then you can't bring about the principles and the theory of evolution. That's how you go back and change it, because morality needs to fit the ideas of evolution. It can't fit the ideas of God from the Holy Bible. Morality now has to be changed to fit the style of evolution so Superman can be who he needs to be. Rough and tough at times and above everyone else. And he's going to be the man everyone looks to for protection. I'm going to read a poem that Nietzsche will elaborate on. The poem goes like this: Dead are all gods. Now we will that Superman live. I teach you Superman. Man is something that shall be surpassed. What have ye done to surpass him? What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal. What can be loved in man is that he is a transition and a destruction. I love those who do not know how to live except in perishing, for they are those going beyond. I love the great despisers because they are the great adorers. They are arrows of longing for other shore. I love those who do not seek beyond the stars for a reason to perish and be sacrificed, but who sacrifice themselves to earth in order that earth may someday become Superman's. It's time for man to mark his goal. It's time for man to plant the germ of his highest hope. Tell me, my brethren, if the goal be lacking to humanity, is not humanity itself lacking? Love unto the most remote man is higher than love unto your neighbors. And so, as I said before, they wanted all gods to perish. Knowing that there is only one true God, they wanted Isis and Osiris and Horus and Mithras and Zeus and whoever else you want to name to go away so they could make way for the coming Superman. And Nietzsche also said here at the end that Nietzsche appears to foresee that every reader will think himself the Superman, and tries to guard against this by confessing that Superman is not yet born. We can only be his forerunners and his soil. He says, will nothing beyond your capacity, be not virtuous beyond your ability, and demand nothing of yourselves contrary to probability. Not for us is the happiness which only the Superman will know. Our best goal is work. For a long time I have ceased not to strive for my happiness. Now I strive for my work. The work that Nietzsche is working towards is the great work that not Aleister Crowley, but Albert Pike spoke of many times. It's the working of bringing together the two opposites, man and God. But the only way they can really get to man and God is to become one with machines. And that's where man is heading now. If you see everything around you, man is starting to learn that the only way for him to get to mortality is to merge with the machinery. And that's how man is going to be surpassed, because they have to create a new man. And the new man will be the Superman. Okay? And basically, the whole poem is just dissing God of the Holy Scriptures, because that's really all these people know how to do. It also says, I love those who do not know how to live except in perishing. So through death, you get eternal life. But you get eternal life through the hero cult, and that's why Kobe wanted to die young. The next part is about the Superman, and I think this will be the end of the talk about Nietzsche, and then we'll move a little further into the actual replacement guys video that talks about Smallville and Superman. In the last episode, it had Superman being the Christ who saved the world from being totally destroyed by a meteor. But we'll get to that. But next, there's an idea that comes about where, humanity would be a lot better, especially here in the United States, and I guess I should say anywhere where there is a first world government, that if the government just did their part, society would be better off. If the government just did what society needed them to do. But I disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with that is that how is it the government is expected to answer the needs of each and every group of people that there are? Because somebody has to be wrong, and then some ideas just wouldn't be the best for society anyway. So who's making those decisions? But as people get into their own heads more, then they want to ask for more handouts and look towards the government for more answers. And if you let them lead you, who knows the direction that they ultimately want to lead you? Maybe they're lying. And they say, well, we have your best interests at heart all the time. But maybe they actually understand that they don't actually have the best interest in their hearts for individuals all the time. They want to answer to the group. But how do you fix the problems of individuals when you're really looking for the answers to fix the group? Because groups come before you, and different groups of people ask for certain things instead of looking for the answers for individuals. Now, I like to think that individuals, as in people, can make their own decisions about their own life and move accordingly as long as it's within the law. All right? But that also means we need knowledge of the scriptures. But these people want to get rid of the scriptures and want to let man give them all the power that they need to move as they like. That isn't the answer. So, moving on, we have part 6 dealing with the Superman. And it says here, just as morality lies not in kindness, but in strength. So the goal of human effort should be not the elevation of all, but the development of finer and stronger individuals. Not mankind, but Superman is the goal. The very last thing a sensible man would undertake would be to improve mankind. Mankind does not improve. It does not even exist. It is an abstraction. All that exists is a vast anthill of individuals. But the individuals don't come before the government. The group does. And also it says, down a little further, it says, better that society should come to an end than that no higher type should appear. Society is an instrument for the enhancement of the power and personality of the individual. The group is not an end in itself. So why then are we consistently sending these groups out to do the work of individuals, where individuals should have their own effect upon their own life? It's because they want to remove accountability from people. They want you to look outwardly and blame everything else instead of looking at yourself to fix your problems. So therefore you will join a group of people, and the group goes forward and expresses its ideas instead of the individual. But the individual is really responsible for itself. So we're removing individuality and moving into groupthink. We've been in groupthink for a while now. Groupthink isn't going anywhere. It's never really went anywhere throughout history. But that's why I always say the individual needs more accountability for their own lives. At first, Nietzsche spoke as if hope were for the production of a new species. Later, he came to think of his Superman as the superior individual rising precariously out of the mire of mass mediocrity, and owing his existence more to deliberate breeding and careful nurture than to the habits of natural selection. Meaning, Superman won't come about just because people wish him to come. He has to be made, and they're going to carefully make him to come into existence. Now, how exactly are they going to do that? I'll show you. The Superman can survive only by human selection, by eugenic foresight, and ennobling education. How absurd it is, after all, to let higher individuals marry for love, heroes with servant girls, and geniuses with seamstresses. Schopenhauer was wrong. Love is not eugenic. When a man is in love, he should not be permitted to make decisions affecting his entire life. It is not given to a man to love and be wise. We should declare invalid the vows of lovers and should make love a legal impediment to marriage. The best should marry only the best. Love should be left to the rabble. The purpose of marriage is not merely reproduction. It should also be development. So, men should indeed love their spouse. But I'm going to do a little bit of agreeing here where I say perhaps you shouldn't be in love with your spouse. What I mean is the spirit of love can cause man to do things that he probably shouldn't do. But again, I'm saying you should marry someone that really loves you and doesn't love you for the stuff that you have. It's not about what you have. It's about them loving you. Because if they just love your stuff and perhaps the prestige that comes along with them being married to you, then they'll marry you and then leave you and then take your stuff. And some men get mad and that makes them want to kill. And that's the spirit of love that I'm talking about. That spirit of love, I believe man can do without. We need to be in control of our emotions. Because truth be told, women can sometimes get away with things that men can't. If a man went walking down an alley and he got mugged, somebody would say, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why were you walking down that alley by yourself?" But if you turn around and let a woman do it, they're going to say, "Oh, wow, that's a shame. That shouldn't have happened. Why would anybody do that to you?" It's going to be two totally different reactions to why a man walked down the alley by himself and then why a woman walked down an alley by herself. Men are held to a higher standard of accountability. I wanted to keep this little paragraph here going for a second because notice the part about eugenics. Eugenics is a way of selective breeding where you're going to pick and choose. You're going to have a certain scientific or alleged scientific way or at least a method of picking people that will be together. I believe Hollywood does this as well where they're not really in it because they love each other. They're in it for the fame only. If they manage to love each other, cool. But if not, it's just a way to make things look good to the people watching the lives of others that are in Hollywood. Because Hollywood is fake. It's definitely fake. Stop looking at these people and their relationships and thinking, I want my relationship like that. Have your own standard for what your relationship should look like. But they're also going to have an ennobling education, which means they're going to have to let people know. Wait till Superman comes. And they're going to have to educate people on the ways in which Superman is going to behave. So they're going to have to raise Superman up from the ashes. Though technically, I believe they're really talking about let's wait on the Antichrist. But I'll get to that in the section where I show the Smallville episode. But notice how they said, the rich should be with the rich. We can't have the rich getting with the poor because that wouldn't lead to the nobility rising and taking over. The next factor in the formula of the Superman is a severe school where perfection will be exacted as a matter of course, not even meriting praise, where there will be a few comforts and many responsibilities, where the body will be taught to suffer in silence, and the will may learn to obey and to command, No libertarian nonsense. No weakening of the physical and moral spine by indulgence and freedom. And yet, a school where one will learn to laugh heartily. Philosophers should be graded according to their capacity for laughter. He who strideth across the highest mountain laugheth at all tragedies, and there will be no moral acid in this education of the Superman, and asceticism of the will, but no condemnation of the flesh. Reading on. A man so born and bred would be beyond good and evil. He will not hesitate to be both if his purpose should require it. He would be fearless rather than good. What is good? To be brave is good. What is good? All that increase the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that comes from weakness. Perhaps the dominant mark of the Superman will be love of danger and strife, provided they have a purpose. He will not seek safety first. He will leave happiness to the greatest number. So if Superman has to do something bad in order to have more good, then he's going to do that. Or at least to have things balance it out. Remember, he's beyond good and evil, so nothing clearly defines him. If he does good at times, it's good. If he does evil at times, hey, that's cool too. As long as he has a purpose for the good and or the evil he commits. Energy, intellect, and pride, these make the Superman. But they must be harmonized. The passions will become powers only when they are selected and unified by some great purpose, which molds a chaos of desires into power of a personality. Woe to the thinker who is not the gardener, but the soil of his plants. Moving on. To have a purpose for which one can be hard upon others, but above all, upon oneself. To have a purpose for which one will do almost anything except betray a friend. That is the final patent of nobility, the last formula of the Superman. It reminds me of Masonry. You can call it Freemasonry if you want, but one of their creeds is to die and become a new man, a man who makes his own decisions. He's going to become beyond good and evil because man is deciding for himself. He's not listening to God anymore. He's listening to himself, right? And through that also, he shall not harm his brother. He's going to help his brother before he helps any other section of humanity. You'll find these references to Freemasonry or Masonry if you know what Freemasonry is and what their creeds are, especially when you're sworn into the lodge. And lastly, moving on, only by seeing such a man as the goal and reward of our labors can we love life and live upward. We must have an aim for whose sake we are all dear to one another. Let us be great, or servants and instruments to the great. So to the great work of preparing the world for the emergence of the Superman. We're going to move on now to the Smallville video.